guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. I thought I would sit down with you guys and chat about my gluten-free and dairy-free health journey. A lot of questions lately on, did I see a benefit from making that change? What did I notice when it comes to making those dietary changes? And so I thought a full sit-down video was due for this topic, just because I can talk about this for quite a while and I didn't want to try to squeeze it into another video. I do want to thank Liquid IV for sponsoring today's video. I know you guys know Liquid IV, seeing them all around. I see them at Costco. My family has been buying Liquid IV for years. You guys know that we live in a super hot climate and all of my kids play sports. Jake and I love running and being outdoors and hiking, and in the summer months especially, you are extremely prone to dehydration through the temperature. So I've been having my kids take Liquid IV's hydration packets in their water to their various practices for years. We've tried all of the flavors and we love them so much. Although this flavor is their lemon lime. It's their best-selling flavor. And so all you do is take 1 pouch of Liquid IV, you pour it into your water bottle, shake it up, and then drink it. And you are going to be hydrating your body and getting all the vitamins and electrolytes through your system that your body needs to prevent you from being dehydrated. Liquid IV is powered by CTT, which is designed to enhance rapid absorption, and it tastes amazing. So Liquid IV is my go-to for hydration and my family, and you guys can save 25% off using my code AshleyW25 on your next order. Not only are you guys going to get 25% off your order at Liquid IV using my code, but you're also going to get this 3 single pack from Liquid IV for free, included with your order when you use my code and the link down below. This is going to have their wellness energy multiplier in here. It's going to have their hydration multiplier, as well as their immunity one, which we love. So this is their immune support drink. So you guys are gonna get their three packets here for free in your order as a part of the offer that Liquid IV is extending through my channel to you guys. So take advantage of it. That way you can try their immune support drink mix in the flavor tangerine, their hydration one in strawberry flavor, and then the energy multiplier in lemon ginger. So all 3 of these you guys can try when you use the link down below. Like I said, we've tried all of the flavors, but lemon lime is a best-selling flavor, and that's because it tastes really, really, really awesome. So thank you so much, Liquid IV, for sponsoring today's video. So before I get into the update on being gluten-free and dairy-free and share with you guys what I noticed personally, I do want to give the disclaimer that this is not medical advice. You should definitely check with your medical provider before deciding on if, a certain type of dietary change is needed or warranted in your life. But I do believe that it's important to be educated and understand your bodies, listen to your bodies, and be an advocate for your own health. So I am sharing this update simply to give you guys what I experienced, and maybe you'll experience something different. So I'm not advising you to, do what I say here. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably remember that I have shared in the past that I have PCOS. If you don't know what that is, a simple Google will bring about an answer for you there. I was diagnosed with PCOS in 2015, and it's been something that I've been living with and managing without any pharmaceutical intervention since that point. So PCOS can be managed, really more so masked, in my opinion, through different pharmaceuticals, hormonal birth control being one of them, metformin being another one. And for me, those were just never really the right options. So I have my PCOS, and my PCOS presents itself in different ways. Lots of different things go on in my body that I am very in touch and in tune with. And one thing that was just really starting to bother me a lot was that certain times of the month I was experiencing extreme bloating and stomach discomfort. Now, I was never really having like digestive issues to the point of where I was becoming sick or ill, but I just wouldn't feel very good after eating certain foods. And it's something that I noticed more so over the past few years, not even just this last year, but more so over the last few years. Once I was done nursing my youngest daughter, so when I was pregnant and nursing, I nursed her for 2 years. So this was, going back like 8 years. Because of some digestive problems she had as a baby, I eliminated dairy completely out of my diet. After that point, once I had weaned her and I was starting to incorporate dairy into my diet, dairy just never really sat very well with me after that point again. So, I would still eat it here and there, but it was definitely sparing. And if I ever ate a large concentrated amount of dairy, like ice cream, or I don't drink milk, but if I were to have like something that had a lot of cream sauce or something that was like covered in cheese, like pizza, my body would not feel very happy. I would be very bloated. I would feel uncomfortable, like I had a stomach ache, although I was never actually becoming like violently sick. My digestive system would just kind of be messed up for a few days. That's all I want to go into because this is the internet. So I've known about the dairy for a lot of years, and so I just would try to eat it, here and there, and not all of the time. And I was doing okay with that. Well, then like this past year, I started. So last year, rewind it to basically last March. So that would have been March of 2021, or yeah. Maybe even February. I had done enough research and had heard enough about PCOS with different hormonal issues and just like PCOS putting your body into an inflamed state from the inside out, that I said, you know what, I am going to try going gluten-free and dairy-free. I found a few trusted social media accounts that really spoke a lot to it, to the benefits of it. Theirs was more for getting their cycles to regulate so that they could become pregnant, where obviously that is not what I am doing because I have had a tubal ligation. However, they were able to become pregnant after the fact. And that was something they were having difficulty with before. So anyways, I thought to myself, I have enough symptoms to where this wouldn't hurt. And having a personal training background, I have, learned about foods, learned about quality of foods, learned about macros and macronutrients, learned about whole foods, and just all different kinds of just all kinds of information when it comes to nutrition. And so I've known that dairy and gluten are inflammatory foods, but there was just never really enough of a reason for me to eliminate them from my diet, until I had kind of had enough with the stomach aches and the bloating and the discomfort that I decided, last year that I was going to give that an earnest try. And anytime I try to do something in the fitness or the health realm, I give it 100%, because truly that's the only way you can really evaluate if it's working or if it's not working, is to give it 100%. If you're going gluten-free and then you have gluten here and there, you're not going to be able to tell if you are benefiting from that change. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that gluten is like in everything you eat. And so they might think they're gluten-free, but they're not actually gluten-free. So I gave it a really valiant, earnest effort, and I was 100% gluten and dairy free for months. 6. So I was completely dairy-free and gluten-free for about 8 months. I was cooking that way at home. I was doing things to, feed my family the foods that they love, which have always been healthy, nutritious foods, but, enchiladas for me with no cheese, and different things like that. And I was very successful with it. I will say being gluten-free and dairy-free is much more difficult than doing one or the other. So the combination of doing both was challenging in some aspects. The main thing being when you're traveling or eating out. At home, no big deal, but travel and eating out, gluten-free, definitely much easier than dairy-free because everything in a restaurant is cooked in like butter. So, all that to say, I was 100% dedicated, and I did that so that I could really assess the benefit to my body. So right off the gate of me changing my diet to being gluten-free and dairy-free, I was not restricting calories or I wasn't even really tracking my macros during this because it was too difficult to track macros and be dairy-free and gluten-free. It was like too many things to keep track of. I only can handle like one thing at a time. So I stopped tracking macros and just kind of ate the way that I know how to eat after all these years of tracking macros to try to keep my protein high because that is really helpful for me. So I was doing that, but I was just focused on being gluten-free and dairy-free. So right out of the gate, I noticed that I lost some weight. I lost like 5 to 7 pounds without even changing how much I was eating. It was just changing foods to being gluten-free and dairy-free. Now, in the beginning, that was pretty encouraging to me because if you are inflamed, then you're naturally going to be retaining water. So I thought, wow, this is amazing. I've been walking around with like 7 to 10 pounds of excess water on my body, which is what I always kind of felt. I always felt just bloated for no reason. And so that was really encouraging. However, it never went beyond that. So that was within like the first month, and then it just kind of stayed where it was. And that was fine because this wasn't for weight loss. It was just, that was an encouraging statistic to see, which kind of validated what I was initially thinking is like, maybe I really do have extreme intolerances to gluten and dairy. Dairy, I definitely knew affected me much more than gluten, but I thought, let's try both, give it a good extended amount of time, like 3 to 6 months for sure, and then be able to evaluate. So that's what I did. So I lost about 7 pounds, but it never continued beyond that. So the weight loss really didn't continue on, which was fine. Like I said, that wasn't the point, but I did feel better. I wasn't having stomach pains. The bloating was gone. I wasn't having like the digestive, uncomfortable things that I was dealing with. And as far as PCOS goes, it's a hormonal thing. So I was kind of watching and seeing how my energy levels were they dipping like they usually do? Were my moods kind of up and down like they usually are, which is a normal part of being a woman, but it also it's worse with PCOS because you have very, very low estrogen. So that can, present lots of different things in the hormonal world. So I was paying attention to all of those things and I did feel better. I'm going to be honest and tell you guys, I did feel better. In a lot of ways. So the bloating, the digestive stuff. One thing that was kind of difficult though was getting my macros in. A lot of what I was eating, not a lot, but when it's already hard to eat enough protein as a woman because I just cannot stomach eating, 150 grams of chicken breast a day, it was difficult for me to get my protein where I needed it to be while eating gluten-free and dairy-free. So part of me was wondering if I was losing a little bit of muscle mass, which is what also, was a part of the 7 pounds or so that I lost. Who knows? Jury's still out on that. So yeah, and I was finding that I was hungry a lot more. And that is probably because the foods I was eating were much easier to digest than they were, you know, gluten and dairy. That stuff is kind of difficult for onto your digestive system. So it makes sense. So I definitely feel like I was eating more being gluten-free and dairy-free because I was always hungry. So that's kind of like an update, and I stuck to it, and those were the improvements that I noticed. I definitely felt good. It wasn't like a huge night and day difference in the PCOS world, but it was definitely a huge difference in the digestive bloating discomfort world. So I stuck with that very, very strict for like I said, about 7-8 months. And leading up to our trip to Disney World in January of 2022, I started to, through the holidays, I had a cookie or I had this or I had that, and I noticed that I wasn't feeling bad. So I was like, okay, maybe it really was just the dairy because I hadn't brought either one of those back into my diet yet. So I also know from being a trainer and doing, you know, so much education on nutrition that a lot of times when you eliminate a food for an extended amount of time, your body will tolerate it until it's like reached a tipping point. So I knew that. So I thought, well, it could be either or. You know, I've eliminated dairy and gluten from my diet for so long that my system isn't overloaded right now. So maybe that's why I'm able to digest it okay. But if I keep eating it, then I'm going to go right back to where I was. So that was kind of in the back of my head. So I did it sparingly and very careful with my choosings. So I started kind of experimenting with gluten a little bit in December, leading up to our trip to Disney World in January. Now, here's why. Can you be gluten-free if you have celiac disease and you have to be gluten-free at Disney? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. Is the food going to not be very good at all? Probably so. And we were traveling with my family, and I didn't want to be an inconvenience to them and not be able to eat at the restaurants they wanted to eat at and all those things. Now, if I would have started feeling horrible, then I would have just made accommodations, but I didn't want to make the trip about Ashley and her eating. And I think a lot of times if you are someone who has certain eating preferences, that might be something that you don't even realize you're doing, but it becomes kind of stressful on your friends and your family dealing with your eating preferences. Now, if it's a life or death allergy situation, I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking about a choice, right? So I didn't want to do that to my family. So I thought I could probably get away with a week of eating gluten. I was still going to steer clear from dairy because I had already known that my body just does not like dairy in large quantities. And I was fine. I was completely fine. I didn't feel terrible. I didn't have any stomach trouble. I felt pretty good. And so coming back from Disney World, knowing that I was tolerating gluten okay, I've been eating gluten since that point, and I have not had any issues. Which has been great. And so I also have not gained the 7 pounds that I lost back. So I don't know what that was, because if it was water retention, it would have definitely come back by now, considering it's been like 5 months since I was in Disney World that I have been eating gluten and I've been okay. Dairy is another story, guys. I have tried, like when we went to California, Jake and I tried to split a small little ice cream. It was like this big, and I only wanted half of it. So maybe 5-6 bites. I had a horrible stomach ache. So I have just determined that dairy and me, we don't go together. Now I do okay if it's like a sprinkle of Parmesan in a balsamic salad dressing. I don't have to be like that in depth as if it were an allergy, but my body just does not like dairy in large quantities. So that it has been my discovery. So I have successfully reintroduced gluten into my diet, and I am doing perfectly fine. I have still been keeping dairy to a very minimal amount because I feel better when I'm doing that. So now that you guys know where I'm at, you'll be able to see I'm not completely gluten-free and dairy-free anymore. I am more dairy-free than I am gluten-free because like I said, things covered in cheese, you know, it does not sit well with me, and I feel lighter and healthier without all of that weighing me down. And so I actually, a lot of the things and the habits that I developed being gluten-free and dairy-free, I've carried into how I eat now, and I feel better like that. So that's my update for you guys. That's where I'm at. I am back to tracking my macros because that truly is just my sweet spot. When I get away from it for too long, I start to fall into the habit of not eating enough and not fueling my body properly and becoming really, really hungry later in the day and then eating too much at one time. And it's just hard to be a homeschool work mom, work at home mom, and, you know, keep everything as it needs to be. But I like feeling my best, and that is so I have the energy and the desire to do everything that I have to do. And I only get one body, and I want to take care of my body and be a good example to my children without being neurotic and consumed. So that's where I'm at, guys. Would I do it again? Yes. If you think that you might be having some difficulty with gluten or dairy, I encourage you to investigate that. You might be surprised what you discover. But make sure you give it an earnest, solid effort so that you can assess it fairly, because having some here and there is not going to give you the same information that your body will give you if you truly are removing it entirely. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that recommend to me raw dairy in the comments of this video. I know about it, but I just don't have access to raw dairy products. So for now, it's just I'm not doing much dairy at all, and I'm good with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing a little gluten-free, dairy-free food update. If you have any questions for me, post them down below. If you need or want to try Liquid IV, make sure you check out the link that will be down below and use my code AshleyW25 to save 25% on your order. You will love them, and so will your kids, especially with the summer upon us. Make sure everyone in your family is staying nice and hydrated through those pool days and hikes and vacationing and all those fun things we all have to look forward to. So thank you so much for listening to my update. I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you all in my next one really soon. Bye, friends.